to turn on some audio recording of a reporter for something for the public.
Thank you, Mary. Are you ready? Okay. Well, good afternoon. I'm Karen Cadger, Mayor and Cable Television Licensing Authority for the City of Easthampton. We will now open the city's public hearing on the June 17, 2014 Cable Television License Transfer Application of Charter Communications and Comcast Corporation. The purpose of this hearing is to hear from Charter, Comcast, and the public about the proposed transfer of the Easthampton cable license from Charter to Comcast. Before getting started, I'd like to welcome all those in attendance and welcome both Charter and Comcast. Under applicable law and the current license, the license cannot be transferred without the consent of the license issuing authority, which is the mayor. Pursuant to the applicable law, this hearing shall include consideration of the qualifications of the proposed transferee, Comcast, including whether Comcast has the technical, legal, financial, and management ability to assume the obligations of the proposed transferor, Charter. In addition, we would like to confirm for the public and for the record that state law and the transfer application provide that Comcast must assume and comply with all the terms of the existing Easthampton Charter license, which is due to expire in June of 2015. We also want to hear generally about Comcast's commitment to community programming and public, educational, and governmental access, and to maintaining cable-related support for the city. We want Comcast, as a possible provider in Easthampton, to be aware of and attentive to the importance of Easthampton Community Access Television, which is ECAT, and its role at the forefront of meeting many public, city, and school cable needs. One financial procedure point that is of importance to the city and community: Easthampton and Charter are currently in the license renewal window prescribed by the Federal Cable Act, during which the city has ascertained the cable-related needs of the community and conclude license renewal negotiations with the cable licensee. Accordingly, we want the viewing public to be aware that the license renewal process is underway, separate from today's transfer hearing. The city therefore also welcomes public comment about local cable needs to assist with the separate renewal process. And public comments about renewal are welcome and can be sent directly to me, Mayor Karen Cadger, care of City Hall, Municipal Office Building, in connection with the separate renewal process. The agenda for this hearing will be as follows. First, we invite opening statements from Charter and Comcast as proposed transferee. Should address its management, financial, and legal ability to assume the obligations of Charter under the current license, its overall commitment to local programming and public, educational and government access, and how operations will continue as they now are or change. Finally, questions or comments from the issuing authority and the general public will be accepted. Before proceeding with the testimony from Comcast and Charter, I note that we have entered the following document into the hearing record: License Transferee Application of Charter and Comcast, Form FCC Form 394, and Comcast cover letter dated June 17, 2014. We note for the record that the hearing was advertised in local newspapers. Any questions or comments from Charter and Comcast should be directed through me, and I will rule whether they are in order. The record of this hearing will be left open until further notice, and members of the public or interested parties accordingly may submit written comments on this license transfer application, care of Mayor's Office, City Hall. We will now commence testimony on Comcast license transfer application in Easthampton.
Okay, my name is Tom Cohan. I'm the Director of Government Relations for Charter Communications. Madam Mayor, it's a very much pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much. As the Mayor stated, Charter is the current franchise holder in the city of Easthampton and is in the process of negotiating a renewal license with the city. We will continue to do that. This is a separate transaction. Charter and Comcast are proposing to essentially swap a number of systems so that the Charter systems in the city of Easthampton and throughout New England will be transferred to Comcast and in return, Charter will pick up systems with a similar number of customers, about 1.5 million customers in the Midwest. That is part of the Comcast Time Warner transaction. The customers, the systems, the Charter will be picking up in the Midwest are currently Time Warner systems in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, that part of the country. So, I mean, I guess for many respects, and some of the people I've worked with who've been at Charter for many years and the predecessor company, Greater Media, it's sad when there's changes. For the company, it makes a lot of sense. In New England, this is Charter's smallest service area. We operate in 29 states around the country. We have approximately 4.5 million customers. But our New England system is the smallest. In Massachusetts, for example, we serve 53 cities and towns, we're kind of the hole in the donut, and the rest of it has primarily been Comcast. Any cable company, whether it's Charter or Comcast or Time Warner or Cox, really operates most effectively when they have a good cluster of systems, and they can most efficiently use the number of employees, the call centers, the service centers, etc., to provide the best services for customers. I think most people today are primarily waiting to hear about what Comcast is going to do, so I'll turn it over to Dan Glanville.
Thank you, Tom. Good afternoon, Mayor, and good afternoon, members of the public. I'd like to thank you for welcoming me here this afternoon to address your concerns and to outline the 394 application that has been presented to the town on June 17, 2014. Comcast is here today to present that it meets the legal, financial, managerial, and technical expertise to step into the shoes of Charter Communications. That said, Comcast has a long-standing history of operations in the field of cable television and is 50-plus years in operation. And built its roots in Mississippi and Philadelphia and expanded across the country to the company that it is today. So Comcast is pleased about the technological advancements in the services that it's able to give to its customers across the country. But more than that, Comcast was founded on the principles of really a local company with local operations and local management, and still prides itself on that. But today we're broken up into 3 divisions, with our corporate headquarters located in Philadelphia, our Northeast Division in Manchester, New Hampshire, and in that division are many regions. And one of those regions is the Western New England region, of which I'm a member of the senior leadership team. That regional office is located in Berlin, Connecticut, with many offices throughout Connecticut, Western Massachusetts, Vermont, and a small portion in the area of Somers, New York. Our operational decisions are made locally by our management team. My direct boss resides in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. I'm a lifelong resident of Holyoke, Massachusetts, and have been a 17-year employee of Comcast, and very proud of that and proud of the company that I work for. So Comcast has, as I said, a long history with regard to the investment in telecommunications and the services it provides to its company, its customers throughout the company. And one of the things that it prides itself on most recently is giving people the opportunity to expand their video viewing options with the introduction of its X1 platform and the ability to watch their services on multiple levels, whether it be in the house, on tablet devices, or on phone devices. We continue to expand those operations to expand technical abilities for our customers throughout the country, and look forward to doing it in the service areas acquired through the Charter transaction as well. That really speaks to our technical expertise. I spoke earlier with regard to our management expertise, and I'll further it a little bit with our management operations being locally, with a Senior Vice President of Operations in Berlin, Connecticut, direct financial management in Berlin, Connecticut, marketing oversight, as well as business services oversight, as well as technical oversight, and care oversight, and government and regulatory affairs under my direction. So the management team is well seasoned, with I say just in Western New England alone 100 plus years of cable services operations together. We look forward to using those with the team that we have in place, whether it be here just over down the road in Westfield, Massachusetts, in Northampton, Massachusetts, or in other areas across the Northeast to continue to help us in the management of the system. The 394 application speaks to the financial ability to step into the shoes, and I would direct you to that. And then with regard to the technical ability, as I spoke to earlier, that criteria is outlined and it will be further invested in our introduction of advanced services here in Easthampton and throughout Western Massachusetts. So I'll be happy to take specific questions if you want to discuss those with regard to that. But I do want to stress a little bit that Comcast also, as I said earlier, prides itself on really being involved in the community. So in Massachusetts today, we have just over 4,000 full-time employees, and of course that will expand to the acquisition of the charter resources. So those are full-time employees. And in addition to that, we operate in centers throughout the Connecticut River Valley. And then we have a large philanthropic commitment. In 2013 alone, our philanthropic investment in the communities of New England, or in Massachusetts, I should say, have been in excess of $12.6 million. That's part due to cash, in-kind, and other community investments. We look forward to expanding those operations in the charter service areas as well. Although it's a non-regulated service, one of the things that we do talk about with regard to our internet service is a product that we're particularly proud of, and that was the launch of the Internet Essentials product. As long as we believe that one of the biggest impediments to really curing what is called the digital divide is the issue of broadband adoption. And we believe that broadband adoption through a low-cost, high-speed internet product really helps to remedy that situation. So for instance, 3+ years ago, we launched the Internet Essentials program, whereby customers who qualify for free or reduced school lunch then qualify for the Internet Essentials program at $9.95 per month in their home as long as they remain in school. So if they get this in first grade, they qualify for it through 12th grade in graduation. So quite a program. We've seen vast adoption of it to the tune of 1.2 million Americans and 300,000 low-income households. So we look forward to expanding that into the charter service area as well. That's a little bit about Comcast. Just with regard to some specific questions that you raised, Comcast has a long-standing national relationship with PEG access providers across the country. In Western New England, we have relationships with PEG access providers across the state of Connecticut, throughout the state of Vermont, and throughout the Pioneer Valley as well, with independent PEG access providers from Greenfield to Amherst to Springfield, and to many organizations that Bill has represented, or shall I say Attorney August has represented over the years. So we look forward to continuing to build relationships to meet the future cable-related needs of the community of Easthampton, and in doing that, meeting the PEG needs as well. We understand that you're in negotiations for your franchise and renewal. We're confident that that will reach closure before the closure of this deal, and we look forward to stepping into the shoes of a well-executed agreement. So thank you for the opportunity to present here today, and thank you for...
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, if anyone has any questions, we should ask them, please state their name and Okay. So, would you like to open it up to the public first?
Sure.
Okay. So, we're thinking of... They have something to say here. We're going to open it up. Any questions to the public first? And first of all, thank you very much for coming. But would you please just, when you, if you have a question, please just state your name so that we can have it for the record. Does anybody have any? Would anyone like to start out? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Hagan, and I'm a citizen here. Kind of specific question. Eastern part of the state, the boxes that come with the TVs, right now with Charter, we pay for them. Eastern end of the state, they get up to 3 with Comcast, no charge. Something as specific as that, will we be getting something like that?
So I presume you're talking about the digital to analog boxes when you go through the digital transition. We have a program whereby we do grant, I guess that, tell me a little bit about yours. Does it go for a period of time?
We are going to go all digital this fall. in Easthampton and throughout New England. We're starting in September in Vermont. There will be different offers depending on the level of service that a customer has. So a limited basic customer that has no box today would be eligible for 2 free boxes for 2 years.
And this is coming from Charter?
This would be Charter, yes.
And you said 2?
That's for the limited basic only customer. If you have digital already, you'd probably be eligible for 1 free box for a year. Because if you're a digital customer now, you already have at least 1 box.
So your deal will be closed, and then Comcast's taking over will come later on.
Yeah.
So we then stay the same, or does Comcast, are they going to change that midway through the contract?
So with regard to what happens initially upon close of the transaction is nothing. The transaction closes, and then we begin a process whereby we introduce ourselves to the customer. First through various materials that will be mailed directly to the customer. More often than not, and we haven't done a deep dive into the technical specifications of the Easthampton system, but the electronic devices that are utilized in the house will continue to be utilized in the same fashion, meaning there isn't a need to switch out boxes. When we launch things such as the X1 platform, the X1, if people choose to upgrade to it, is a different type of set-top box. That said, in some of our markets today, they will get an X1 box. Some people choose to utilize it in their living room, and they keep the same equipment that they had in other rooms for the existing television service, so that they have the X1 platform in their main viewing room, and they utilize the existing equipment in those rooms where it currently is.
There would continue to be a charge, whereas on the eastern end of the state, we're very sensitive here about the eastern end of the state getting better things than we do. They have no charge for their up to 3. We do.
Who has, in Charter?
No, certainly not with Charter.
Comcast?
Comcast
So we have the
gives you-
same billing practices for set-top boxes in Western Massachusetts with Comcast as we do in Eastern Massachusetts.
But if you take over once Charter, you pay for these boxes. And this was the question that people had.
She's comparing Eastern Mass Comcast to Western Mass Charter.
Yes,
Correct.
right now Comcast is very nice.
Right.
They give you up to 3 boxes. You're not charged. Charter, we have to pay for boxes.
Right, that's for a period of time with Comcast as well, I believe. I believe there's a 2-year issue with that as well. I think on what's built into the, sorry, taking a tennis elbow brace off, that's bothering me. That's what happens when you type like that too much. But anyway, we have a similar program when we launched the digital enhancement, whereby we included in one of the product platforms that is purchased is a set-top box.
Okay.
And then for additional televisions, there's a charge for the set-top box. Traditionally, what happens with what we call DTA devices, it's digital to analog devices, it's $1.99 per month for those. When we first go digital, we do have a period of time where the digital to analog device is included at no charge for 2 years. So I think that's very similar to what Tom described. But I can assure you of this, that the procedures that are in existence for today in Comcast Western Massachusetts communities with regard to billing practices for set-top boxes are the same here as they are on the other side of 495.
So people are asking, as soon as Comcast comes in, whatever we have for Charter continues. Until, okay.
Yeah, and what happens, so it probably continues for a period of several months, and then we begin an integration process. We then send customers and this is what we've done in the past when we've acquired systems. We send customers a notification that says, you have X package available. The most similar package to what you have in a Comcast package is X, at X cost, outlining the cost, and then also giving you other options, one of a lower cost, or other options if you may want to expand your service, so that you have choice. We give you a period of time to look that whole thing over. If choices haven't been made, traditionally your package is grandfathered, and then people will proactively reach out to you. So it's not day one, rip the Band-Aid off and we switch everything over. It's a very methodical process to ensure what is hopefully very good customer service.
Thank you. People had questions.
Right.
Sure.
And that's a very good question, and I think that leads me to another question that I think
Yes.
that, I think we touched on with you, Tom, at our negotiation. If everything were to go perfectly smooth and the takeover of Comcast to, taking over Greater Media, that is like a projected time of probably not until maybe next June type thing. I mean, what is if everything is, approved and regulated, and what are you looking at for your projected time?
We are hoping for regulatory approval and close at or shortly after the first of the year.
After the first of the year?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that gives people, I think a lot of people are thinking, when is this happening? If everything goes smooth, that's their projected time.
Yes, and then even after close, oh, I got a terrible picture. I'm fixing my even after close, there would be a period of transition.
Okay, my name is Irving Rothberg, and some of the questions that I've written down have been answered. One of them was a general one about when the FCC would be approving, and that you expect that to happen by the end of the year, or
Well, we're hopeful that will be the case.
Okay.
I can't really predict what will happen, but we're hopeful that will be the
Now,
case.
if I've sorted through what I've heard so far, I understand that Comcast, these cables,
Yeah.
companies that begin with C are very confusing, but Comcast will honor the agreement that is reached by June 14th.
The charter.
Charter, right?
License.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that a literal approval?
Comcast is obligated to assume and comply with all of the terms
All of the
of
terms.
the charter license as is.
Is there any cash involved?
No cash involved.
Good question.
I'll be quick to answer that one, sir.
I think that's a logical question.
So let
know whether-
me give by example.
We want to know
Moving on
whether
there.
Yeah.
one entity is buying out the other.
No. Okay.
Could be in the form of a check.
It's a transaction. The charter transaction is a trade transaction, so it's a non-cash transaction.
It's a swap, you're saying?
Swap, yes.
Okay.
We have a long history, Bill and I, working together, and we've been through acquisitions before. I can tell you this, that Comcast steps into the shoes of whoever the incumbent provider is today, and we assume
Yeah,
the franchise agreement as it stands.
all right. Now, I'm here as a special interest personally. I don't represent Lathrop community where I live, but I know that Lathrop has a very special arrangement with Charter. And we get a deal, I can think it's called in your terminology, multiple dwelling.
MDU, yes.
Yeah. And I want to know how this might affect what we have, which is a pretty good deal now.
Do you have an MDU contract existing?
Yeah?
We would adopt the MDU contract.
Yeah. Okay, because some of our newer units are built with fiber optic ready. And then I must stress that I'm not representing Lathrop, but I am
You're a resident there and you're
very
interested.
interested in what will happen, and I will report back.
Yeah, we would adopt the MDU contract. MDU contracts traditionally don't run coterminously with the franchise agreement, so and they usually have, I think, 5-year terms on them. So we would adopt the MDU agreement and obviously work with you to renew as well.
And this will include internet service too, like you're saying, huh?
The transfer?
Yeah.
All 3 services.
All 3 services?
Yes. Although the regulated portion of the transfer is pertinent to video service, but we will provide all 3 services. So in other words, our franchise is just limited to the provision of video
How much of a
services.
transition time do you envision?
Hard to say, but we probably, by past experience, after close, transition is usually fully integrated hopefully within a year.
Well, I'm sorry to say you've answered all my questions. I was had harder ones.
You had very good questions, thank
Very good
you.
question. Well, can I make one follow-up comment on the prior question? The franchise itself cannot address the pricing of or promotions pertaining to the boxes. The franchise, the license, the contract between the city and the cable company can regulate many things, but not the actual pricing or promotional programs for those boxes. The cities and towns were kicked out of that rate regulation area many, many years ago, and the state has some residual pricing regulation in towns that haven't been otherwise rate deregulated. Is Easthampton rate deregulated?
No, Easthampton is still basic services regulated by the Mass Department of Telecommunications.
Just
Right,
one
but
final question.
none of the other rates can be
Just
set
the
or
limited
fixed
basis.
in the, so.
Is this a 10-year contract that you're?
It will be, yes. Well, our existing contract is a 10-year,
Yeah, over in 2025.
and it expires in 15.
15,
Yes.
10 more years.
Well, no, the existing contract we have now is good for almost one more year. And we've already begun negotiations with Mr. Cohen from
For 10
Charter.
years.
Right, and we were looking for another 10-year contract.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's correct. Any other questions?
You were saying that...
Did you state your name, please?
Wendy Taylor Jordan. You were saying that when things change over, initially there will be no difference. But I've noticed, looking at available Charter and Comcast channels on the channel guides, there are channels that are available on Comcast that aren't available on Charter and vice versa. So if somebody has Charter, will they lose the Charter-only channels right away?
Well, not right away, no. So your packages, as they exist, will continue even after close, and then we'll integrate into new packages. Working to understand what channels may or may not be available. But I presume that some of the channels may be available, but in different packages.
I'm Rick Root, and I just have a question on cost. Do you know the, like, Charter's average cost per household, and is it likely to be about the same, or is it going to be going up, or?
I think that we have similarly, I think that all video providers have pretty similarly priced products. That said, in what we consider to be a very competitive arena in the voice, video, and data space, is that something we have to watch price very closely. So we believe in giving the most value to our customers and keeping a close eye on price as well.
Okay. And when the switch does take place, though, we'll probably have the same invoicing until we decide.
Correct. Billing will not change immediately.
Okay.
And I think that's a really important comment that Bill made, that is not controlled locally.
Right.
Pricing is not controlled locally. That is a great question, because that's probably my number one question that comes to the office, is about different pricing and different programming. Our programming is our local access channels. So thanks for bringing that up.
May I
Chris?
ask a question? It doesn't have anything to do with the transferring over, but in this day and age of computers, since we have Comcast and Charter here, is it ever going to be a menu where I could say, my package has 10 programs, and I get to pick the 10, you know, if I don't want certain ones? Will it, do you think it'll ever
A la
come to
carte.
that?
A la carte.
If that's a dream.
Okay.
Exactly.
Just curious.
No, I'm asking, I'm commenting.
I can address it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that, because we talk about that all the time.
Yeah, I'm just...
Comes up everywhere.
Versus the different packages or the different tiers.
Yeah, because some people don't want certain
Yep.
things.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Exactly.
So I agree that we hear that concern often, but Tom and I were together last night in Chicopee and I gave this explanation. So I'll rinse and repeat and give it again. So it's, we often hear that issue, but what we try to do is we try to please most of the people most of the time with a package offering. And the reason, there's been some studies at the FCC and studies elsewhere that have looked at this very issue to find that the way it's set up today actually creates the best value for customers. And somebody might say, well, I don't like channel X, Y, and Z, but if you take channel X, or if you take channel B, for instance, and you might say, channel B is a news channel, and it costs channel B, it costs cable providers, Charter, Comcast, the dish providers, and others, $1 something per month per subscriber to purchase the programming from them that we then sell to customers. So then B channel also has a budget that they put together, and they say, I need so many news people, I need so much travel expense, I need so much for studios around the world in order to produce the product that I'm producing. And it all makes sense today because now they can charge $1.10 to each provider, whether it be Comcast, Cox, Charter, DirecTV, or others. If suddenly we go to an a la carte mode and all of us in this room no longer get Channel B, but only 3 of us want Channel B on a la carte, Channel B still exists whereby they have to have X budget together to produce their programming. So they then say, well, I can't charge Charter, Comcast, and DirecTV $1.10 anymore because only 3 of their existing 10 subscribers want it. I'm now going to have to charge them $9.50 per subscriber. So the study actually showed over a long and detailed period that people would reduce their programming and perhaps even increase their price. And in addition to that, what we call, my French hasn't gotten any better since last night, so I'll still say niche programming. It's called niche programming, whether it be the independent film channels or other channels. There's a group of people that look at certain programming and say, boy, I really like that channel. But it's a very small group of people that makes it a niche program. The study shows that they would cease to exist, and even some of the mainstream channels would cease to exist. So we have looked at it. We actually tried some specific packaging that we tried in Western New England to try to see if people were interested. Our independent study showed after we tried it that people went into this program, they stayed into it for a period of time, and they said, boy, that stuff I complained about not having, I want it back. And they called back. So sports programming tends to be expensive because we all know what we're paying for. News programming is expensive as well. There are some channels, admittedly, that come to the cable system without a charge. They're very few and far between these days. We pay for broadcasters as well. So all of those have costs associated with them. It's a long-winded answer, but I think it does explain that.
That's nice to know, just always curious.
And thank you, Chris, for bringing up that question, because I can't tell you how many people, including myself, said, I don't want that whole tier. I only want 1 or 2 things on that.
yes.
You know, instead of this tier, that tier, just pick and choose. So that's a great question, and I think you did a good job
The interest in
answering
it is so great that Congress has held several hearings on it. Yes, yes. It's gotten to the congressional level. They've held hearings on it to see if have a dialogue and try to bring out the facts and find out why it's not happening.
Well, I think it's, I think my thought was, they just haven't been able to figure out how to do it with the computers.
Oh, no, they could
And that's
do
a
it.
totally different answer. It's the
It's more a
cost.
pricing and cost thing. There are more transaction costs to when.
Well, thank you, just curious.
And you've probably noticed if you've ever tried at one point in time to cancel something, it almost doesn't save you any money. You know, the different ways of your selection.
Yeah.
So that explains it. Thank you.
I have a question for Dan. If I can just jump in. Dan, you were explaining
Give
how.
your name and address.
This
By the
is-
way, I should introduce you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill August, Cable Counsel for the city. You and Tom were discussing how this is, it relates to or is in connection with the separate Time Warner transaction involving Comcast acquiring Time Warner systems. And it has often been described, the Charter transaction, the Comcast Charter transaction has been described, I think accurately, as contingent on or conditional, contingent on the Time Warner deal going through first. Is that correct?
Well, they're more of a probably global transaction, 2 of them combined, in that it's our goal that both of them happen. And because this is part of the ultimate divestiture of certain Comcast subscribers in the Charter piece, in the swap with Charter, the short answer is yes. But we believe that as with any transaction that we do, the entire transaction.
Well,
is
I know that's the goal globally, but in terms of just looking at it from a licensing authority's perspective in a charter community, the short answer being yes is that yes, it is conditional.
Yes.
Okay. Because I don't want the mayor or the public to think that if and when this Easthampton license transfer application is approved, that's not being approved in a final binding way. It's being approved with our understanding that that license transfer still, though unlikely, it may never actually be transferred if the Time Warner precondition isn't satisfied first. So this transfer is conditional on that, and that's the spirit and technical nature of the way we would be approving it, conditional on the Time Warner preconditions being met.
Thanks, Will.
I'm going to just shut this off. So I apologize.
We're all supposed to get up and switch chairs.
And I apologize, I probably should have introduced everybody else at the table, whether they have questions or not, so that the public would know who they are. This is Ashley Barstow. He is our systems analyst, our IT person for the school side of the city. And this is very, very small, who is RT systems analyst specialist for the city side. And this is Kathy Lynch, who is the local access channel. She's ECAT. She's in charge of ECAT. So just so you know who else is here.
I have one other due diligence question, just to help clarify the record for our understanding of this. I did call Tom Cohen from Charter just to ask if he was aware of any side letters applicable to the Easthampton Charter system, because a small minority of both Comcast and Charter systems, separate from the license, will have some kind of memorandum of understanding or side letter. And so when we are asking, will Comcast assume all of the obligations of the license, it's also relevant for us to know, will Comcast also assume the obligations of other side agreements, like the MDU agreement you asked about? And Tom was not aware of any side letters. I was not involved in the last renewal. I was involved in my youth in the renewal before that. So I'm just asking if anyone in the city is aware of any other agreements above and beyond the license. I asked Tom about side letters, but sometimes it's in the form of a memorandum of understanding or a separate agreement. I'm not aware of that. Tom, are you aware of anything beyond
No,
side
but
letters?
as this gentleman said, we do have
That-
bulk MDU agreement.
But that's
Yeah.
different. That's a
Very different.
contract.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not a side letter. Yeah, that's a
Right.
contractual
Right,
arrangement.
but I just want to make sure I'm not
Okay.
missing any
Right.
side agreements that you, or amendments that you folks have seen since the issuance of the renewal license. You're not aware of other special contracts or commitments and side letters?
Just Lathrop one, well, have you checked with, excuse me, have you checked with other multiple dwelling arrangements?
He met with the city.
I met
Just
with the city, but
okay.
from what Dan is saying, that where it's a contract with an MDU owner, that's an enforceable contract, and that will clearly be honored. It's okay.
Did you have?
Susan Lever, I live on Highland Avenue. As a consumer, I appreciate the fact that Charter maintains an office here in town. Will Comcast do something similar?
So we have multiple offices up and down the Pioneer Valley. And at this stage of the game, we have not analyzed office space, whether it be head-end space, hub space, technical space, or payment center space as well. So it's premature for us, due to federal restrictions, for us to get into that, what they call gun jumping analysis. So we have not done that at this juncture, but we'll do a detailed analysis of that.
I appreciate it when I need a service, I can
Yeah.
be it pay a bill or get a remote change, if I don't have to leave town to do it.
And I can tell you, Susan, that is something that has been brought up several times in
Okay.
our negotiations with Charter. It's something that has been very important to our community, and it has already been discussed in length about trying to, a separate thing altogether, because obviously we've been negotiating with our current contract to try to maintain that office in Easthampton. That is definitely something that's been part of our negotiations
The
that we're
seniors
discussing.
use it
Yeah,
significantly.
yeah, that's good.
Hi, I'm Mary Cerez. I'm a reporter with Springfield Republican and MassLive.com. I'd like someone to speak to what this transfer and/or the contract negotiations, how that will affect our local PEG access station, what the implications are for ECAT.
Well, you have two separate questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll stick to what the hearing is today, and,
We have an agreement with the city today, which is our cable television license, which has a lot of provisions related to our support for PEG access in the city. We are in the middle of renewing, or negotiating a renewal of that license, and one of the most prominent parts of that negotiation is the terms and conditions for PEG access going forward.
Okay, so can anybody speak to how that's going? Things going to improve for ECAT? Going to have better facilities, better technology? Can anybody speak to the progress of those negotiations?
well, Kathy had just stepped out for a second, but I don't know how much we want to
Well,
discuss we're in the middle of negotiations.
There are pending negotiations, but it's a good process, and the PEG Access Studio people that you're asking about, and their producers and volunteers are aware of it, and it's been a good process. Because it's pending, I don't want to yet disclose the deals, but it is going well. It's going very well. It will be strong. As of now, it's somewhat an improvement upon what is in the existing license. So there's a net improvement.
Based on the needs
Is Kathy part of
that-
that negotiation?
Excuse me?
Is Kathy Lynch part of that negotiation?
Okay, I can,
Well, we've been
Yeah.
consulted in advising us
Yeah.
the same
about
as
their
with,
needs.
the
Yeah.
same as with our systems analysts,
Right.
Barry and Ashley.
Barry and Ashley?
And the
Right.
negotiations have consist of Mr. Cohen, myself, and Attorney August.
We have obtained very detailed budget information
From
from
ECAT.
the Easthampton Public Access, PEG Access Studio, ECAT. So there's been a lot of diligent homework, looking at the details of the equipment needs, the operating budget needs. So this process has been very well informed by that.
I just wanted to expand in that answer. It's also our hope that if this license transfer goes through and we move forward, what we'll basically do is it will sync up all access centers in Western Massachusetts to use the same cable provider. So from a PEG access viewpoint, the ability to share and collaborate on work and build an aggregate library is much higher now. So with the transfer. So my only hope is that dealing with charter communications has been a very positive experience for our agency. I would hope that the level of service and technical support and just generally overall support would continue in a relationship forward with the new company. Sorry, I just ran through my bathrooms in the water.
Thank you. And I also comment on exactly what Bill had said. I'm very, very pleased with the way our negotiations have been going and with the input. And we have, thank you for bringing that up, we have taken, I would say, in-depth input from our systems analysts and our ECAT. Thank you, Mary.
An unfair question, how close are you to signing off? I said it was unfair.
Ask that
No,
guy.
it doesn't expire until June of next year.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple meetings, and there's been a public hearing, and I don't foresee any major stumbling blocks.
We certainly haven't come across any yet.
Well, yeah, there's one we'll consult about after the meeting.
Yep.
About 10 months.
Actually, this process is not long. We haven't, we started the process over a year before it expires for that exact reason, so that we could, go over all the details. So that's where we're at now. We've only had just a few meetings. Okay. Any other questions?
Great.
Well, I thank everybody. I thank you for your information, and I thank the public for coming, for your interest, and
Thank you very much.
and thank you, Mary, for covering it and bringing up some questions too.
Karen, are you aware of any other meetings that might be happening,
For what?
such as this?
For cable?
Yeah.
I ours are always, advertised in the newspaper
Nothing is
and,
pending right now.
yeah, this is it right now.
Right.
We've had,
We
right.
did have a major public hearing on the renewal about 2 months ago.
So that everybody would know it was up for renewal, and that was
Right.
in a public
There were
meeting.
about 50 people there.
Right, it was a very good public
Right.
meeting, and this one is just on the license transfer.
Right.
I
Okay.
just have one more comment before we close up, because I did get an email this morning from Claire at Ed's Auto Body, who is, I also did receive a phone call from this business earlier in the month, and they're wondering if Comcast would have any plans to expand access to service into Mechanic Street. I think their business is located, which is somewhat downtown. It's sort of,
can't just
it's at
right
the
behind
very end of the
7-Eleven,
loop. It's at the very end of the loop. So they currently don't have access to high-speed internet. And I think that she's adding in, the people at Community Feed and National Nonwovens would like to have access to high-speed internet. So it's not necessarily
If
relevant.
afterwards, if you can give me the name
Sure,
and
sure,
address.
sure. It's not necessarily relevant to this hearing,
Right.
but I said I would put that forth.
Can I ask?
If I may,
Yeah.
and one thing, I mean, we are, as part of this, seeking your assent to the petition for a transfer. There is a sample resolution in the 394 packet.
We're working on
Yeah.
a couple of edits.
Sure.
Thank you. I have one just follow-up question on a comment that Kathy made about having such a great working relationship and availability of some of the individuals from Charter. I mean, that's really one of the great things about this industry, is there really is a great level of government and community relations. And Comcast has provided that too in the many communities I work in that are Comcast communities. My question is, just for the record, will Comcast continue that model in its charter communities of designating individuals who can then have a long-term relationship where they have an institutional memory about the town rather than just rotating the town through different people in a bureaucracy? Will there still be a designated, whether it's Tom or you, will you continue that model that you've used elsewhere of having designated people?
So I've not seen the final plan of how it will be
Right.
laid out, but I have no reason to believe otherwise, that we would
Right.
change anything from the plan that, from the system that we've been operating under together for 17 plus years.
Right, and that's how it's been done in all your Massachusetts territories. There've been individuals assigned to that territory, so you can have working relations with the studio people and even customers, they can, work with, have some continuity.
That would be our plan.
So this, okay.
That's been very helpful in the interim of our 10-year contracts. Okay, well, thank you
Good.
very much. Thank everybody for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, that's great.
It works.
Is it off, Cap?
Yeah.
I spell your name right?
No, it's still.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
it's
I
not.
get it
Thanks,
very
Dan.
Perez.
Good seeing you.
Good to see you, sir.
S-E-R-R-E-Z.
So I enjoyed
Yeah,
meeting Aaron and getting to work with him and Ware. Say hello.
Nice to meet you. That was a very good answer.